Domestic violence killings do not end with the loss of one life. For the children left behind, the impact can continue for years through grief, trauma, financial strain, and the painful reality of growing up without a parent. In light of the recent homicide of Joy Saint Omer, questions are being raised about what happens to children when a mother is killed in circumstances linked to domestic violence.
That's a hard question to answer, but really and truly, the problem is that the impact of the trauma is really bad, right? And relatives, friends, caregivers are usually not equipped to deal with that because they themselves have problems. And you know, a caregiver, a mother is the closest person usually to the child. So it has a terrible impact. There's loss, there's fear, there's everything else, right? Normally we would say that human services should have to deal with that because the person needs counseling.
The issue also brings renewed attention to previous cases, including that of Alana Bernard, where families and communities were left to confront the emotional aftermath of violence in the home. While public attention often focuses on the crime, counselors say the hidden victims are often the children.
Take the recent incident where the parent was killed. It's worse for the child because the child is losing a mother through violence, and it's a child's father who committed the act. So you have to live with that. You live in a small society where everybody knows everybody else. When you go to school and you say, your father killed your mother, the child has to deal with all of that. And the child may have had attachment to the father. So sometimes the conflict too of you love somebody but they hurt somebody you love, it's a big mess. It's terrible. It's very, very traumatic.
A counselor at the Saint Lucia Crisis Prevention Center says children affected by domestic violence killings need urgent emotional care and long-term support. The counselor explains that trauma can affect children differently depending on their age, often impacting their emotions, behavior, school performance, and sense of safety. Relatives who become caregivers may also face emotional and financial strain while coping with their own grief and loss.
First of all, there is silence. First of all, you look for changes in behavior, right? So if a child used to talk a lot and they stop talking, if they used to be quiet and they're talking a lot, if they're not sleeping, if they're not eating, if they're eating too much, you're looking for changes in the behavior. And once you see changes that are not usually there, it's usually a red flag that something is happening. You know, so I don't have to go through the range because different people behave differently. Some will just start talking, some will stop talking. It depends on the individual. So you're looking for changes in behavior. And once there are changes in the behavior that you cannot understand, you need to try and get some help for that child. At least a professional would be able to say, well, you know, this is what is happening.
This case also raises questions about whether enough support systems exist for children in Saint Lucia when domestic violence turns fatal. Counselors say help must go beyond the immediate aftermath. It needs to continue long after the funeral when public attention has moved on. It is also a reminder of why early intervention matters. Experts say family, neighbors, schools, and communities must take warning signs seriously before tragedy strikes.
I always think that schools have a big part to play, right? Because teachers are educated. Some parents are not well educated. We have had parents who can't read, for example. So the parent may be young, the parent may be inexperienced, the parents may not understand what is happening. We expect that the teachers usually, and remember that children spend a big part of the day in the classroom. So the teachers should be equipped to identify that here's a child who has a problem. We need to seek some help for this, you know, call in the parent, call human services and get some help for this child.
Support systems such as counseling, stable caregiving, financial assistance, and continued community support are often critical to the healing process. For the children left behind, recovery can depend heavily on how quickly and consistently that support is provided. I'm Christabel Obi reporting for Hot 7 TV News.